Trump's legal team just got thrown out of federal court. A federal judge's unprecedented ruling has sent shockwaves through the legal community and left Trump's defense strategy in complete shambles. This isn't just another courtroom setback or procedural hiccup. Federal Judge Patricia Morrison physically ordered Trump's entire legal team removed from her courtroom after what witnesses are calling the most explosive confrontation between a judge and defense attorneys in modern judicial history. When a federal judge tells U.S. Marshals to escort lawyers out of the building, you know something absolutely catastrophic just happened. Hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you view Trump's legal battles. So what triggered this nuclear meltdown in federal court? According to sealed court transcripts obtained by multiple news outlets, Trump's lead attorney, Michael Hartman, repeatedly violated direct judicial orders during a critical pretrial hearing on January 8th. Sources inside the courtroom say Hartman interrupted Judge Morrison 17 times in less than 20 minutes, continued speaking after being told to stop, and allegedly made personal attacks on the judge's impartiality. This wasn't just zealous advocacy or aggressive lawyering. Multiple court officers confirmed that Hartman pointed his finger at the judge while shouting that the proceedings were a complete sham orchestrated by the Biden Justice Department. When Judge Morrison warned him about contempt, Hartman reportedly responded by saying, "Your Honor's bias is showing." That's when everything exploded. Here's the full picture of what's been unfolding behind closed doors. The tensions between Trump's legal team and Judge Morrison have been building for weeks, fueled by repeated motions to delay, accusations of prosecutorial misconduct, and attempts to relitigate settled procedural matters. But everything reached a breaking point during Thursday's hearing when Trump's lawyers tried to introduce evidence that had already been ruled inadmissible 3 separate times. The hearing was supposed to address narrow pretrial motions about witness testimony. Instead, it devolved into what court reporters are calling the most chaotic scene they've witnessed in decades of covering federal cases. According to the official transcript, when Judge Morrison denied their motion to reconsider excluded evidence, Attorney Susan Chen stood up without permission and began reading from what she claimed were newly discovered documents proving prosecutorial corruption. Smash that like button if this is making sense so far. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. Judge Morrison immediately ordered Chen to stop and sit down. But Chen kept reading, her voice getting louder as 2 other Trump attorneys, James Rodriguez and Michael Hartman, stood up and began speaking simultaneously. Court security moved toward the defense table as the judge repeatedly banged her gavel demanding order. That's when Hartman made his fatal mistake. He walked toward the bench, pointing at Judge Morrison, and declared that this court has lost all legitimacy. Federal marshals immediately stepped between Hartman and the judge. Morrison's response was swift and devastating. She cited all 3 attorneys for contempt, ordered them removed from the courtroom, and declared that they were barred from appearing before her court pending a full disciplinary hearing. The immediate removal of an entire legal team from federal court is extraordinarily rare. Legal experts are calling it virtually unprecedented in modern jurisprudence. Georgetown law professor David Steinberg, who has practiced federal law for 35 years, told reporters he's never seen anything like it. Judges have enormous patience with even the most difficult attorneys, he explained. For a federal judge to order physical removal of an entire defense team signals that something went catastrophically wrong. Harvard Law's Rebecca Martinez added that this could have severe implications for Trump's defense strategy. "You can't just swap in new lawyers at this stage," she said. "They'd need months to get up to speed on complex federal charges." Drop a comment right now if you saw this coming. I read every single one. The confrontation reportedly started when Trump's team attempted to challenge evidence related to classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago. Despite previous rulings that certain national security materials would be reviewed in camera, meaning privately by the judge, Trump's lawyers insisted on making the details public in open court. When Judge Morrison reminded them of the protective order, Attorney Rodriguez allegedly responded, "The American people have a right to see how this prosecution is hiding exculpatory evidence." That's when the situation spiraled completely out of control. Chen began reading from what she claimed were FBI internal memos showing bias, while Hartman accused the judge of colluding with prosecutors to deny President Trump a fair trial. But here's what nobody's talking about yet. Court security footage leaked to independent journalists shows an even more dramatic scene than the transcripts suggest. In the video, Hartman can be seen slamming his fist on the defense table so hard that water glasses toppled over. Chen threw a legal pad toward the prosecution table, papers scattering across the courtroom floor. Rodriguez allegedly kicked his chair over when marshals approached. The footage shows at least 6 federal marshals needed to physically escort the 3 attorneys from the courtroom while they continued shouting about judicial tyranny and constitutional violations. One marshal can be heard saying, "Sir, you need to calm down," as Hartman struggled against their grip. And here's what makes this even more explosive. The removal wasn't just about courtroom decorum. Sources familiar with the sealed proceedings reveal that Trump's attorneys may have violated federal rules by attempting to disclose classified information in open court. If true, they could face criminal charges themselves, not just disciplinary action. Former federal prosecutor Jennifer Walsh explained the gravity of the situation. When attorneys deliberately violate protective orders regarding classified materials, they cross from zealous advocacy into potential criminal conduct, she said. These lawyers may have just implicated themselves in serious federal crimes. The Justice Department is reportedly considering whether to pursue obstruction charges against the removed attorneys. The classified documents in question allegedly contain sensitive intelligence about nuclear capabilities and human intelligence sources. According to 3 sources with knowledge of the materials, Trump's lawyers were attempting to reveal specifics that could have endangered national security and potentially put lives at risk. One intelligence official, speaking on deep background, said, "If these attorneys had succeeded in reading those documents aloud, we would have had to extract assets from hostile territories immediately." The fact that Trump's team was willing to risk such exposure speaks to either shocking recklessness or deliberate sabotage. This creates an absolute nightmare scenario for Trump's defense. His trial is scheduled to begin in just 6 weeks, and now he needs an entirely new legal team. But here's the catch. Any lawyer taking the case would need security clearances to review classified evidence, a process that typically takes months. Plus, they'd have to review thousands of pages of documents, dozens of witness statements, and complex constitutional arguments that Trump's previous team has been developing for over a year. Legal analyst Mark Thompson called it defensive suicide, explaining that no competent attorney could adequately prepare for trial in such a compressed timeline. Subscribe immediately if you haven't yet. This content doesn't exist anywhere else. The ripple effects are already hitting Trump's other cases. Sources inside Trump's legal orbit report panic and confusion as attorneys in his Georgia case, New York case, and other federal matters scramble to distance themselves from Thursday's courtroom disaster. 3 lawyers have already filed motions to withdraw from Trump's various cases, citing irreconcilable differences in legal strategy. One attorney, speaking on condition of anonymity, revealed that Trump personally instructed his legal team to fight dirty and expose the judge's corruption, directives that ultimately led to their removal. Breaking news just in. 2 more attorneys from Trump's Georgia defense team filed emergency motions to withdraw just hours ago. Attorney Margaret Stevens cited ethical obligations that prevent continued representation, while her co-counsel Robert Harrison was more direct, stating in his filing that recent events have made it impossible to provide competent representation while maintaining professional integrity. This brings the total number of attorneys abandoning Trump to 5 in just 48 hours. Legal ethics expert Professor Janet Coleman called it an unprecedented mass exodus that signals deep problems with the client's approach to litigation. What's particularly stunning is the reaction from Trump himself. Within hours of his legal team's removal, Trump took to Truth Social with a series of incendiary posts. He called Judge Morrison completely deranged and claimed the courtroom confrontation was staged by the radical left to deny me counsel. He went further, suggesting that his supporters should watch what happens next and that Second Amendment people might have something to say about this judicial tyranny. Legal experts immediately flagged these posts as potential witness intimidation and threats against a federal judge, crimes that could result in immediate arrest. But it gets worse. Trump followed up with a 2 a.m. post that has law enforcement on high alert. He wrote, "Judge Morrison's home address is public record. Maybe some patriots should exercise their First Amendment rights outside her house. The FBI immediately increased protection for Judge Morrison and her family, while legal analysts debated whether this constituted a direct incitement to violence. Former federal judge William Patterson said, "This crosses every conceivable line. He's essentially putting a target on a federal judge's back, the U.S." Marshals Service has now classified Judge Morrison as requiring the highest level of protective detail, typically reserved for Supreme Court justices facing credible death threats. Don't go anywhere. The most explosive part is coming next. Behind the scenes, the situation is even worse than it appears publicly. Court documents filed under seal and obtained by investigative journalists reveal that this wasn't the first time Trump's lawyers crossed ethical lines in this case. The documents detail at least 7 previous incidents where Trump's attorneys were warned about inappropriate conduct, including attempting to contact jurors, leaking grand jury material, and making false statements in court filings. Judge Morrison's patience apparently ran out when the defense team's behavior escalated from problematic to potentially criminal. New information reveals that Trump's attorneys had been warned specifically about their conduct in a sealed hearing on January 3rd. Judge Morrison allegedly told them, "Gentlemen and ladies, you are skating on extremely thin ice. One more violation of court rules and I will have no choice but to take drastic action." Court personnel present at that hearing say Trump's lawyers laughed off the warning, with Hartman reportedly telling colleagues afterward, "She's bluffing. No judge would dare remove Trump's entire legal team." This hubris ultimately led to their downfall just 5 days later. Here's what should alarm everyone. The sealed filings indicate that Trump's attorneys may have been following a deliberate strategy to create chaos and grounds for appeal. Internal emails between Trump's legal team, accidentally filed without redaction, show discussions about forcing a mistrial through judicial conflict and creating reversible error through confrontation. One email from Hartman to Trump explicitly states, "If we push Morrison hard enough, she'll snap and give us the mistrial we need." This suggests the courtroom explosion wasn't spontaneous, but rather a calculated gambit that backfired spectacularly. Additional emails reveal even more damaging details. Chen wrote to the team, "Tomorrow we go nuclear. Make sure someone's recording everything on their phone." Rodriguez responded, "Are we sure about this? Once we cross this line, there's no going back." Hartman's chilling reply, "Trump wants chaos. We give him chaos. If we all get disbarred, he'll make sure we're taken care of." These emails, now in the hands of federal prosecutors, could form the basis of a criminal conspiracy case against the entire defense team. Legal ethics expert Professor Sarah Mitchell observed, "This isn't just malpractice. It's a criminal conspiracy to obstruct justice, and they documented every step of it." Former Supreme Court Clerk Timothy Harrison analyzed the strategic implications. If these emails are authentic, Trump's lawyers didn't just commit contempt of court. They engaged in a conspiracy to obstruct justice. He explained that deliberately provoking a judge to manufacture grounds for appeal could result in criminal charges for the attorneys involved. You can't intentionally sabotage judicial proceedings and claim it's zealous advocacy, Harrison added. That's the legal equivalent of burning down the courthouse because you don't like the judge. Do me a favor and slam that like button because it genuinely helps this video reach more people. The timing couldn't be worse for Trump's defense. With primaries approaching and multiple trials converging, he needs experienced counsel more than ever. But the legal community is watching this disaster unfold with horror. Several prominent defense attorneys have already publicly stated they won't take Trump's case under any circumstances. Robert Patterson, who successfully defended multiple high-profile political figures, told CNN, "No amount of money is worth destroying your career and potentially facing criminal charges yourself." Another top attorney, speaking anonymously, was even more blunt. "Representing Trump now is career suicide. His team just showed everyone what happens when you follow his playbook." The financial implications alone are staggering. Top criminal defense attorneys typically charge between $1,500 and $2,000 per hour for federal cases of this complexity. With Trump needing at least 5 attorneys for his various cases, plus support staff, experts, and investigators, he's looking at legal bills potentially exceeding $1 million per week. Sources familiar with Trump's finances say he's already burned through most of his legal defense fund, and major donors are refusing to contribute more after Thursday's debacle. One major Republican donor, who previously gave $5 million to Trump's legal fund, demanded a full refund, stating, "I didn't donate money to watch lawyers commit crimes in court." Even more concerning are reports from inside the special counsel's office. Sources say prosecutors are preparing additional charges based on Thursday's courtroom incident. If Trump directly ordered his attorneys to violate court orders or disclose classified information, he could face new obstruction charges. Prosecutor Sarah Mitchell has reportedly convened an emergency grand jury session to present evidence of Trump's role in orchestrating the courtroom confrontation. This isn't just about contempt of court anymore. A source familiar with the investigation revealed, this is about a pattern of deliberate obstruction that goes right to the top. The grand jury has already heard testimony from court personnel who witnessed the confrontation. One court reporter testified that she heard Trump on speakerphone during a recess, telling his lawyers, "I don't care what that judge says. You read those documents. Make her arrest you if she has to." Another witness, a federal marshal, testified that Hartman told him while being escorted out, "This is exactly what we wanted. Trump's going to be thrilled." These statements, combined with the email evidence, paint a picture of deliberate orchestration from the highest level. And here's where it really gets serious. The removal of Trump's legal team has triggered a cascade effect across all his cases. In Georgia, District Attorney Fani Willis filed an emergency motion arguing that Trump's demonstrated willingness to corrupt judicial proceedings justifies revoking his bail. In New York, prosecutors are asking Judge Merchan to impose a gag order preventing Trump from discussing any aspect of his cases on social media. The Manhattan DA's filing explicitly cites Thursday's federal court incident as evidence that Trump poses a clear and present danger to the administration of justice. Multiple legal scholars are now questioning whether Trump can receive a fair trial anywhere in the country, but not for the reasons his supporters claim. Professor Linda Chen from Yale Law School explained the paradox. Trump's own conduct and that of his attorneys has so poisoned the well that finding impartial jurors becomes nearly impossible. She noted that Trump's strategy of attacking judges, prosecutors, and the entire judicial system creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. He claims he can't get a fair trial while simultaneously doing everything possible to ensure that becomes true, Chen observed. The security concerns are escalating by the hour. Federal courthouses across the country have increased security measures after threats poured in following Trump's social media posts. The Southern District of New York reported 17 separate bomb threats in the past 24 hours. The District of Columbia's federal courthouse evacuated twice after suspicious packages were found. Judge Morrison now travels with a 6-person security detail, and her family has been relocated to a secure location. One senior law enforcement official said, "We're treating this as a domestic terrorism threat. When people threaten federal judges, that's an attack on the rule of law itself." Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'm genuinely curious to see your perspective. The constitutional implications are staggering. This isn't just about one defendant or one case anymore. It's about whether the rule of law can survive when a former president actively encourages his legal team to sabotage judicial proceedings. Constitutional scholar David Rosen warns that we're entering uncharted territory. The framers never imagined a situation where a former president would weaponize the legal process itself. He explained that Trump's tactics threaten the very foundation of our justice system. If defendants can force mistrials through orchestrated chaos, the entire system collapses. Republican senators are reportedly holding emergency meetings to discuss the crisis. Sources inside these closed-door sessions say there's growing panic about the political implications. Senator John Williams, speaking off the record, admitted, "We can't defend this. When lawyers get thrown out of federal court for contempt, how do we explain that to voters?" Another Republican senator was overheard saying, "He's making it impossible for us to support him. This isn't political persecution anymore. It's self-destruction." The emergency meetings have produced sharp divisions within the Republican caucus. Senator Patricia Holmes, a former prosecutor, allegedly told colleagues, "If we don't denounce this behavior, we're complicit in destroying the judiciary." But Senator Robert Jackson pushed back, arguing, "Our base will crucify us if we abandon Trump now." The heated exchange reportedly ended with several senators walking out in frustration. One senior Republican aide described the mood as apocalyptic, adding, Everyone knows this is a disaster, but nobody wants to be the first to say it publicly. Meanwhile, Trump's remaining supporters are rallying around a new conspiracy theory. They claim Judge Morrison was activated by the deep state, specifically to deny Trump legal representation. Social media is flooded with calls for protests at federal courthouses, with some extremist groups threatening citizens' arrests of federal judges. The FBI has increased security at all federal courthouses after credible threats were made against Judge Morrison and her family. This escalation from legal tactics to potential violence represents a dangerous new phase in Trump's legal battles. The conspiracy theories have taken an even darker turn. QAnon-affiliated channels are claiming that Judge Morrison is a deep state clone and that the real judge was replaced months ago. They're sharing doctored photos, purporting to show physical differences in the judge's appearance. One viral post claimed that the courtroom confrontation was staged using crisis actors and that Trump's real lawyers are in hiding, preparing a massive counteroffensive. These deranged theories have been viewed millions of times, with some supporters calling for armed rallies at Judge Morrison's supposed safe houses. Stay with me. What comes next will completely change how you view the situation. New revelations from inside Trump's legal team paint an even darker picture. Former Associate Counsel Jennifer Blake, who quit Trump's team 2 months ago, has provided devastating testimony to federal investigators. She claims Trump personally directed his lawyers to create chaos and make the judges crack. According to Blake's sworn statement, Trump told his team, "I don't care if you all get disbarred. We're going to war with these corrupt judges." She also revealed that Trump kept an enemies list of federal judges and prosecutors, with detailed plans to destroy them through legal manipulation and public pressure. Blake's testimony includes even more shocking details. She claims Trump held war council meetings where he would role play as different judges while his lawyers practiced maximum disruption techniques. In one session, Trump allegedly instructed his team to synchronize your objections and never let the judge complete a sentence. Blake testified that Trump specifically said, "If 3 of you are talking at once, they can't hold you all in contempt." She also revealed that Trump promised $1 million bonuses to any lawyer who successfully provoked a mistrial through judicial confrontation. These allegations, if proven true, could result in additional RICO charges against Trump for leading a criminal enterprise aimed at obstructing justice. Former U.S. Attorney Michael Stevens explained the severity. If Trump orchestrated a conspiracy to corrupt judicial proceedings across multiple jurisdictions, that's exactly what RICO was designed to prosecute. He added that Trump's lawyers could face decades in prison if convicted of participating in such a scheme. Following orders isn't a defense when those orders involve committing federal crimes, Stevens emphasized. The RICO implications extend beyond just Trump and his immediate legal team. Investigators are now examining whether other Trump associates participated in the conspiracy to disrupt judicial proceedings. Financial records show suspicious payments from Trump-affiliated organizations to various individuals in the days before major court hearings. One payment of $50,000 went to a media consultant who specializes in crisis creation, while another $100,000 went to a security firm known for providing protest coordination services. These payments could indicate a broader conspiracy to create chaos both inside and outside courtrooms. The financial implications are equally devastating. Trump's legal bills reportedly exceed $40 million, and finding new attorneys willing to take the case will cost millions more. Several top law firms have already declined representation, citing ethical concerns and reputational risks. One managing partner, speaking anonymously, revealed that their firm conducted a risk assessment and concluded that representing Trump could result in catastrophic damage to our practice and potential criminal exposure for our attorneys. Major insurance companies that provide malpractice coverage for law firms are now warning that they may not cover attorneys who take Trump's cases. Lexington Legal Insurance, one of the largest providers, sent a memo to covered firms stating, "Representation of clients who direct counsel to violate court orders or engage in contemptuous behavior may void coverage." This creates an additional barrier for Trump finding competent representation, as most attorneys won't practice without malpractice insurance. One legal industry analyst called it a de facto blacklisting through insurance risk management. If this blows your mind, hit that like button right now. The international implications can't be ignored either. Foreign intelligence services are reportedly analyzing Thursday's courtroom incident as evidence of American institutional weakness. A European intelligence official, speaking on background, said, "When a former president's lawyers are physically removed from court, it signals to our adversaries that American democracy is in crisis." Russian state media is already using the footage of U.S. marshals escorting Trump's lawyers out as propaganda, claiming it proves American justice is collapsing from within. Chinese state media has been even more aggressive in exploiting the chaos. Global Times ran a front-page story titled "American Justice System in Free Fall" as Trump exposes its contradictions. The article claimed that the courtroom confrontation proves that Western democracy cannot handle leaders who refuse to play by elite rules. Meanwhile, Iranian media is using the incident to deflect from their own human rights abuses, with one commentator saying, "Americans lecture us about rule of law while their own courts descend into chaos." These propaganda victories for American adversaries represent a serious national security concern. Here's what makes this particularly dangerous. Trump's next court appearance is in 72 hours, and he currently has no legal representation. Judge Morrison has indicated she won't grant another postponement, meaning Trump may have to appear pro se, representing himself. Legal experts uniformly agree this would be catastrophic for his defense. "A federal criminal trial isn't traffic court," explained Professor Martin Hughes. "The complexity of federal criminal procedure means even experienced attorneys struggle. A non-lawyer defending himself on serious federal charges is like performing brain surgery on yourself." But sources close to Trump say he's actually considering it. They report Trump believes representing himself would allow him to expose the corruption directly and speak truth to power without lawyers holding me back. This terrifies even his most loyal supporters. Senator Ted Matthews, one of Trump's few remaining defenders, privately told colleagues, if he represents himself, it's over. He'll be in prison within 6 months. Another Trump ally warned he thinks he's Perry Mason. He's going to convict himself in the first 10 minutes. Trump has reportedly been studying legal procedure books and watching YouTube videos about courtroom tactics. One source saw Trump's desk covered with printed articles about defendants who represented themselves, with handwritten notes in the margins. Most concerning, Trump has allegedly been practicing his opening statement, which sources say includes accusations against the judge, prosecutors, and the entire corrupt system. If Trump attempts to deliver this statement in court, he could face immediate contempt charges and possible incarceration. Before we go any further, smash that subscribe button so you never miss content like this. The Justice Department is preparing for unprecedented scenarios. Internal memos obtained by journalists reveal contingency planning for everything from Trump refusing to attend trial to attempting to fire his own lawyers mid-proceeding. One memo warns about the possibility of Trump creating security incidents to delay proceedings and suggests enhanced screening protocols for all his future court appearances. Another document discusses the legal implications if Trump attempts to represent himself while simultaneously claiming incompetent counsel on appeal. The contingency planning goes even further. The Marshal Service has developed protocols for handling mass civil unrest at federal facilities if Trump is taken into custody. They're coordinating with local law enforcement agencies in every city where Trump faces charges. One planning document envisions scenarios requiring the National Guard to secure courthouses. Another discusses procedures for handling coordinated disruption attempts by organized groups. The fact that such planning is necessary illustrates how severely Trump's behavior has destabilized the normal functioning of the justice system. Federal prosecutors are also preparing new indictments based on Thursday's incident. Sources say the grand jury has already heard evidence that Trump's legal team possessed documents they knew were classified but attempted to read them aloud in open court anyway. If true, each attorney could face up to 10 years in prison per document. Prosecutor Michael Chen has reportedly told his team to prepare for the most complex obstruction case in Department of Justice history, involving multiple defendants across multiple jurisdictions. The constitutional crisis deepens by the hour. Legal scholars are debating whether a former president can effectively be denied counsel if no attorney will represent him. Professor Sarah Washington from Columbia Law argues, the Sixth Amendment guarantees counsel, but it doesn't guarantee that lawyers must commit professional suicide. She raises the terrifying possibility that Trump's tactics have created a situation where constitutional rights conflict with professional ethics. What happens when a defendant makes it impossible for any ethical attorney to represent them, she asks. This case is no longer just about Trump's legal jeopardy. It's about whether American institutions can survive a deliberate assault from within. When federal judges need armed protection from defendants' supporters, when attorneys face criminal charges for following their clients' instructions, when the entire legal system becomes a battlefield, we've crossed into truly dangerous territory. Former Attorney General William Patterson, breaking his silence, warned, "We're watching the systematic destruction of judicial norms that took centuries to build." And here's the most explosive revelation yet. Intelligence sources have discovered communications suggesting foreign governments are actively monitoring Trump's legal troubles for opportunities to exploit American instability. Intercepted communications from Chinese intelligence discuss maximizing chaos during tribunal proceedings, while Russian operatives debate optimal timing for information operations targeting judicial legitimacy. This means Trump's courtroom antics aren't just damaging domestically. They're providing America's adversaries with ammunition to undermine U.S. global leadership. The next 72 hours will be critical. If Trump appears without counsel, legal experts predict chaos. Judge Morrison has already warned she won't tolerate any disruption, but Trump without lawyers to restrain him is a powder keg waiting to explode. Court security has tripled, with metal detectors, bomb-sniffing dogs, and tactical teams on standby. The U.S. Marshals Service has classified the next hearing as a high-threat event, the first time that designation has been used for a routine federal criminal proceeding. Pause for a second and hit that like button if you're finding value in this coverage. What happens next could determine whether American justice survives this unprecedented assault. Trump faces a stark choice. Find new lawyers willing to follow legal ethics, represent himself, and likely face swift conviction, or attempt further delay tactics that could result in immediate incarceration. Each option presents catastrophic risks. Meanwhile, his former attorneys face their own legal jeopardy, with bar complaints, contempt charges, and potential criminal indictments hanging over their heads. The Republican Party is fracturing in real time over this crisis. Donors are fleeing, with major contributors demanding their money back after Thursday's courtroom disaster. Party leaders are holding emergency sessions to discuss contingency plans if Trump is jailed for contempt. One senior Republican strategist admitted, "We're watching the party commit suicide in slow motion. Every day he's in court is another nail in our electoral coffin." Here's where things stand right now. A federal judge just took the extraordinary step of physically removing an entire legal team from her courtroom. Those lawyers now face potential criminal charges for attempting to disclose classified information. Trump has 72 hours to find new representation or face trial alone. Federal prosecutors are preparing new obstruction charges that could add decades to any sentence. Foreign adversaries are exploiting the chaos to undermine American democracy, and millions of Americans are watching their justice system pushed to the breaking point. This isn't just another legal proceeding that will fade from memory. This is a constitutional crisis that will echo through history. When a former president's own conduct makes it impossible for him to obtain counsel, when judges need armed protection from defendants' supporters, when lawyers face prison for following their clients' orders, the very foundation of American justice trembles. The evidence is mounting. The system is breaking. The consequences are catastrophic. What happens in that courtroom in 72 hours will determine whether the rule of law survives or whether one man's rage brings down the entire edifice of American justice. The stakes have never been higher. The danger has never been more real, and the outcome has never been more uncertain.